I talked about this idea for a whole year, and everybody told me it was the stupidest thing they'd ever heard of. But I ignored them and kept going and found people who shared the vision, and it ended up becoming, I believe, the world's largest community arts project ever.
A quilt commemorating 40,000 people who died from AIDS has gone on display in Washington.
Quilts traditionally were made from cast-offs, taking scraps of fabric that are of different colors and different textures and sewing them into something that is warm and comforting. I thought it would be good therapy for people who were deep in grief. I thought of it also as a tool to help the media understand that behind all of those horrendous statistics were actual human beings that were part of families and communities and neighborhoods. But I was never really prepared for the sheer beauty of it. In the early 1970s, I was one of many thousands of young gay and lesbian kids who got here any way we could. Of course, at that time, it was still a felony to be gay in this country. It was still a felony in California. So we lived under a great deal of repression and fear.
I think, this idea that gays are going to take over city government, I think it's amusing when I hear that.
There were a few blocks within the city where we could be completely free and be ourselves, and that meant you could hold hands with your partner, you could kiss. To come here and to find this vibrant, welcoming community was incredibly exciting.
In 1981, American doctors were baffled by a bizarre disease. Within 6 years, AIDS has spread to 71 countries and infected up to 10 million people.
We're filming this interview at a restaurant called Catch at the corner of Castro and Market Street. I was living just a couple of blocks here when I read those first stories about this new disease. That was the summer of 1982. By the fall of 1985, almost everyone I knew was dead or dying. We very quickly came to understand the signs. People who just a few weeks or months before had been athletic and healthy were suddenly getting these purple lesions. People began to get skinny. We saw people die all around us. On one block in my neighborhood, everybody died in the span of 2 years. Ultimately, over 20,000 gay men would die in this neighborhood. I actually acquired the virus in the winter of 1978, 1979. I did not begin to show signs of that infection until 1992. I got very, very sick very, very quickly and came close to dying in 1994 before I got access to one of the very first clinical trials. I admit there are days when I still feel just overwhelmed by grief. I miss my friends. I miss them a lot. I barely passed high school biology, but I understood clearly that there was no such thing as a gay virus, and that what we were experiencing here was going to be experienced by all sorts of different kinds of people all around the planet. I remember one day exclaiming in rage to my friend, if this was a meadow with 1,000 corpses rotting in the sun, then people would look at this, they would see it. So each panel is 3 feet by 6 feet, the approximate size of a grave. And that was deliberate. I wanted to show how much land would be covered if all of these bodies were lined up head to toe. By October 11th of 1987, we had collected 1,920 individual panels, and they were placed on the National Mall in Washington, D.C., and ended up on the front page of just about every newspaper in the world. Once people could see what I was talking about, then they kind of got the power of it. This quilt is a pretty extraordinary testament to what we went through, and it's a place that's known for its monuments. They're made out of stone and steel, and we took a monument there that was made of cloth and thread and sewn by ordinary Americans and people from all over this planet who loved someone who died of AIDS and wanted them to be remembered. It was that simple and that amazing.